Throughout human history, our world has been filled with stories of strange and wondrous beasts. Tales of unicorns, griffins, and sea serpents have been whispered around campfires and passed down through generations, populating the shadowy corners of our imagination. These were, for the most part, simply myths, fanciful creations of the human mind. Yet sometimes the line between legend and reality is far more blurred than we might believe. On rare and extraordinary occasions, a creature thought to be a mere fabrication steps out of the shadows and into the light of scientific discovery, proving that our planet still holds breathtaking secrets. These are not tales from storybooks but true accounts of discovery, where skepticism gave way to astonishment. Imagine the moment when a long-dismissed rumor, a sailor's yarn, or a local legend is suddenly validated by a living, breathing animal. It's a profound reminder that even in our modern, well-mapped world, there are still mysteries waiting in the deepest jungles, the darkest oceans, and the most remote islands. The natural world is, and has always been, far stranger and more magnificent than we could possibly invent. So join me as we journey to the very edge of belief. We will explore 5 remarkable animals that were once relegated to the realm of folklore and cryptozoology. We will uncover the stories of their discovery, from the African unicorn to the living fossil and the colossal monster of the deep. Prepare to be amazed by the creatures that defied disbelief and forced us to rewrite the textbooks of natural history. Which of these living legends do you think is the most surprising? Let's find out. Deep within the dense, humid Ituri rainforest of Central Africa, a creature of exquisite beauty and profound shyness has long made its home. For centuries, local people knew of this animal, a reclusive forest dweller that seemed to be a curious blend of other creatures. Yet, to the outside world, it was nothing more than a whisper, a rumor of a striped horse-like animal that some even called the African unicorn. Early European explorers, including the famed Henry Morton Stanley, heard tales of this elusive beast, which the indigenous Mbuti people called the Oapi, but without a specimen, it remained firmly in the realm of cryptids, a ghost of the forest that evaded all attempts at confirmation. The mystery began to unravel in the early 20th century. Sir Harry Johnston, a British colonial administrator and naturalist, became captivated by these persistent stories. Initially, he believed he was searching for a type of forest zebra, a theory supported by pieces of striped hide he managed to acquire. The puzzle was confounding. The tracks resembled those of a cloven-hoofed animal, not a horse. The breakthrough came not with a full sighting, but with the acquisition of a complete skin and, eventually, 2 skulls. These remains were sent back to London for analysis, where the scientific community was left utterly astonished by what they revealed about this phantom creature. The skulls were not those of a horse or a zebra, but of a giraffe. Here was an animal, the okapi, the only living relative of the long-necked giants of the savannah, that had remained hidden from Western science until 1901. With its zebra-like stripes for camouflage, its long prehensile blue tongue for stripping leaves, and its shy, solitary nature, the okapi was a masterpiece of evolution perfectly adapted to its shadowy domain. It was a living relic, a testament to the fact that even in an age of exploration, a large mammal could remain a myth to the world for so long, a secret kept by the deep, impenetrable jungle. In the grand, sprawling narrative of life on Earth, extinction is the final chapter for most species. For the Coelacanth, a peculiar-looking, lobe-finned fish, that chapter was believed to have been written some 66 million years ago, alongside the dinosaurs. For decades, scientists knew of the Coelacanth only through the fossil record. Its distinctive, limb-like fins made it a crucial link in understanding the transition of life from water to land. It was an icon of a bygone era, a creature as extinct as the Tyrannosaurus rex, its story seemingly concluded by a mass extinction event that reshaped the planet. Its existence was confined to museums and paleontological textbooks, a ghost of the prehistoric seas. This accepted truth was shattered in 1938 in a discovery so improbable it sounds like fiction. A young museum curator in South Africa, Marjorie Courtenay Latimer, was inspecting a local fisherman's catch off the Chalumna River when she spotted a truly bizarre fish. It was large, 1.5 meters long, pale mauve blue, with strange fleshy fins that looked almost like legs. She knew it was something special, something unknown. Unable to preserve it properly, she sketched it and sent the drawing to J.L.B. Smith, a renowned ichthyologist. His response was one of sheer electrifying disbelief. he recognized it immediately from fossil diagrams. It was a coelacanth. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific world. It was the biological equivalent of finding a living dinosaur grazing in a remote valley. Here was a living fossil, a member of a lineage thought to have vanished from the Earth millions of years ago, still swimming in the depths of the Indian Ocean. The search for a second specimen became an obsession, finally succeeding 14 years later. The coelacanth's survival against all odds is a humbling lesson. It teaches us that the ocean's depths are a realm of immense mystery, a sanctuary where relics of an ancient world can persist, hidden from human eyes, continuing their silent, multi-million-year-old story. For centuries, sailors and traders navigating the Lesser Sunda Islands of Indonesia returned with harrowing tales. They spoke of a remote, sun-scorched island inhabited by fearsome giant lizards, veritable dragons that could grow to the size of a man, possessed a venomous bite, and were unafraid of hunting large prey. These stories were largely dismissed back in Europe as exaggerated sailors' yarns, the kind of tall tales spun from too much time at sea. The idea of a 10-foot-long lizard seemed preposterous, a fantasy creature belonging to the pages of mythology, not the annals of zoology. The land crocodile, as it was sometimes called, was a legend whispered on the docks, not a creature to be taken seriously by science. The whispers, however, refused to die. In the early 1910s, a Dutch colonial official, Lieutenant Van Stein van Hensbroek, heard these persistent accounts and, driven by curiosity, mounted an expedition to the island of Komodo. He was not disappointed. He successfully killed one of the lizards and sent the skin and a photograph to Peter Ouwens, the director of the Zoological Museum in Buitenzorg, Java. Ouwens, intrigued, sent collectors who returned with several more specimens. In 1912 he published a paper on this newly discovered reptile, officially introducing the world to Varanus komodoensis, the Komodo dragon. The myth was real. The discovery of the Komodo dragon was a stunning revelation. Here was the world's largest living lizard, a powerful apex predator that had evolved in isolation on these harsh volcanic islands. It was not a creature of fantasy, but a formidable hunter with a complex feeding strategy, using a combination of powerful limbs, sharp teeth, and a venomous saliva to take down prey as large as water buffalo. The dragon of Komodo was no longer a legend. It was a magnificent, powerful, and vulnerable species, a living link to a prehistoric past when giant reptiles dominated the earth, reminding us that sometimes the most outlandish stories hold a kernel of terrifying truth. When the first specimen of a platypus arrived in England from Australia in 1799, it was met not with wonder, but with deep suspicion and outright ridicule. The scientific establishment of the time took one look at this bizarre creature and declared it a hoax. And who could blame them? It seemed to be a crude joke, a taxidermist's prank, stitching together the bill of a duck, the tail of a beaver, and the body of a mole or otter. George Shaw, the naturalist at the British Museum who first examined it, even took a pair of scissors to the pelt, searching for the stitches he was convinced he would find. The animal was so absurd, so contrary to all known biological rules, that it simply couldn't be real. This creature from a land of strange wonders challenged the very foundations of European zoology. It was a mammal, yet it laid leathery eggs like a reptile. It was a mammal, yet the males possessed a venomous spur on their hind legs, a trait almost unheard of outside the reptilian world. Its duck-like bill was not hard, but a soft, rubbery sensory organ covered in thousands of receptors that allowed it to detect the electrical fields of its prey underwater. Every new detail that emerged from the study of this animal only deepened the puzzle and fueled the debate. For years it was considered a beautifully crafted fraud from the far side of the world. It took decades of study and the eventual arrival of more specimens for the scientific community to grudgingly accept the platypus as a genuine living animal. It wasn't a hybrid or a hoax, but a monotreme, a representative of an ancient branch of the mammalian family tree that had diverged millions of years ago. The platypus was a living mosaic of evolutionary traits, a creature that broke all the rules because it had evolved by a different set of them. The animal once laughed out of museums now stands as a powerful symbol of nature's boundless creativity and a humbling reminder that our understanding of life is always incomplete. For millennia, the darkest depths of the ocean have been a source of both fascination and terror. From these abyssal plains arose the legend of the Kraken, a sea monster of immense size, said to possess tentacles so powerful they could drag entire ships down to a watery grave. These tales, from ancient Norse sagas to the accounts of 18th-century sailors, were seen as the product of fear and fantasy, the personification of the ocean's dangers. The Kraken was a myth, a monster to populate the blank spaces on old maps. Yet, tantalizing evidence would occasionally surface: a giant tentacle found in the stomach of a sperm whale, or the massive sucker marks scarred onto a whale's skin. The monster was unseen, but it left its mark. The evidence was circumstantial but compelling. The existence of a colossal squid was scientifically proposed in the 19th century based on the remains that washed ashore, but the living creature itself remained a complete enigma. It was a behemoth of the deep, a true giant, yet it was as elusive as a ghost. For over a century, science knew of the giant squid, Architeuthis dux, but had never observed it in its natural habitat. It was a creature proven to exist, yet it retained its mythical status because no one had ever witnessed its life in the crushing dark, a mile below the surface. The legend was alive, but the animal was still a phantom. That all changed in 2004. In a landmark moment for marine biology, a team of Japanese scientists achieved the impossible. Using a baited line and a camera, they captured the first-ever images of a living giant squid in the deep ocean off the Ogasawara Islands. And then, in 2012, the world saw it in motion as the first video footage of this magnificent animal was recorded. The myth had finally, fully materialized. The Kraken was real, a shimmering intelligent predator with eyes the size of dinner plates, propelling itself through the darkness. The discovery was a triumphant confirmation that even in the 21st century, our planet's greatest wilderness still holds monsters of legendary proportions. The okapi, the Coelacanth, the Komodo dragon, the platypus, and the giant squid. Each of these extraordinary creatures began its story as a whisper, a legend, or an impossibility. They stand as powerful evidence that we should listen closely to local folklore and sailors' tales, for they can sometimes hold a kernel of unbelievable truth. Their journey from myth to scientific fact reminds us that the world is not yet fully known, and that our perception of reality is constantly being expanded by the tireless work of discovery. The natural world is a book with pages yet to be read, and these animals are the stunning revelations we find when we dare to turn a new one. The Earth's hidden corners, from the deepest oceans to the most remote jungles, undoubtedly still conceal species unknown to science. What other mythical creatures might be out there waiting for their moment to step into the light? Perhaps the thunderbird of Native American legend is based on a real undiscovered giant bird. Or maybe a creature akin to Scotland's Loch Ness monster lurks in a deep, unexplored lake somewhere. The possibilities are as vast and as deep as the habitats that might conceal them, firing the imagination and inspiring the next generation of explorers. The story of discovery is never-ending. Now I'm curious to hear from you. What other animals do you know of that were once dismissed as myths, but later found to be real? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. And if you found this journey into the unknown as fascinating as I did, please consider subscribing and joining us for more explorations into the wonders of our incredible planet. There is always more to see and always more to learn.